451-6161 or go to naturopathicgroup.com.
Did you know that daily multivitamins boost your health on the inside and the outside? It's true. Multivitamins with folic acid boost energy levels, improve your mood, and promote overall wellness. And if you decide to have a baby, they can help prevent birth defects in a pregnancy. That's why the Arizona Department of Health Services is offering a free 3-month supply of multivitamins. Visit azDHS.gov/PowerMe A2C for free vitamins.
Sponsored by the Arizona Department of Health Services.
KQFN Tempe. Also transmitting on K257CD Phoenix at 99.3 FM and K240 EU Mountain Hills at 95.9 FM. Wherever you go, take us along. Listen to our live stream on our free Fanatic app. Download it today.
And welcome back to Beat the Book here on a Tuesday afternoon as the conclusion of Super Wild Card Weekend. And of course, that means we've got our Sport Trade Contest winner. We'll get you that here in just a second. I'm Keon Rose. Alongside me, our betting expert in the building, Dylan Cohen. We are broadcasting from the Harmon Solar Studios in sunny Uptown Scottsdale. Today on the show, obviously, we're going to recap Monday Night Football. We've got a lot to talk about there. We'll get to the round 2 matchups, give you the early look at the lines there. And then we'll take a look at the Suns. They're playing tonight. We've got the NBA in full trade rumor gear. Obviously, Jimmy Butler is the talk of this particular town because he may be a Sun at some point. Maybe. We'll figure that out. And then, of course, we'll wrap up the show with the long shot parlay and the other bets to make on the program. You're on the text line at 888-368-1580. How are your picks? How were your teams doing yesterday, especially the football game? We'd love to know. 888-368-1580. But before we get to any and all of those things, Dylan, who powers the show?
That would be Sport Trade. And if you have not already, make sure you download Sport Trade on your smartphone and use promo code 1580 to take advantage of their 10% cashback promotion on all of the wagers that you place in your first week. And we are now going to reveal the winner of the Sport Trade win probability contest. Just keep in mind, if you do not happen to be the winner this time around, you will have another opportunity to participate. Sport Trade CEO Alex Kane will be back on the show this coming Friday. And at that time, he will go over the rules of the contest and which playoff game they are ultimately going to run that contest for. But taking a look at who won the most recent contest, that was on the Commanders and Buccaneers game. And you needed to text us at 888-368-1580 and let us know who you thought, for the Washington Commanders, where you thought their win percentage was going to be at halftime of that game. So, Keon, how did this one shake out? Because I know that this one was like the absolute closest one that I think we've ever had.
This is the closest one we've ever had. The person who was the closest and lost has to be punching air today, or will be in a few moments when I tell them exactly how things played out. Because this is one of those ones where you go, oh man, you were so close. You might be the closest person. No, you are in fact the closest guest we've ever had without winning. So 53%. That was what the number was. And
the score was tied 10-10 at halftime between the Commanders and the Buccaneers. So at halftime, with the score tied 10-10, the Commanders, being the road team, were actually favored to win money line. They had a win percentage of 53% on Sport Trade.
So at that particular point, the closest person would have been Whiskey Tailgate Friend. Whiskey Tailgate Friend originally guessed 52%. And then the morning of the game changed his pick to 53.1%, which means you did in fact go over, and you're not the winner this week. Meanwhile, the guy who is genuinely usually the bridesmaid, never the bride, usually on the outside looking in, literally texted yesterday to say how much did he lose by. Baker's Cocky Hens, 53% on the dot.
Wow.
Which means that Baker's Cocky Hens has won again.
Repeat winner.
Repeat winner.
Congratulations.
I don't remember exactly what week it was that he won originally. And that was more of a technicality. I think everybody was over and he was just the closest one. so he got it this time on the nose. And by the way, that is 3 straight weeks of the winner guessing perfectly what the result was. So you guys are getting pretty good at this. Alex wanted this contest to be something that you could learn to kind of conceptualize these games as win probabilities. I think you guys got it. I think you guys understand the concept very, very well.
No question. Absolutely no question. So Baker's Cocky Hens, congratulations. For anyone else that participated, we appreciate you sending in your submissions. And Baker's Cocky Hens, your information's already been sent over to Sport Trade. They will be reaching out to you to get you that $100 Amazon gift card and $50 in cash sent directly to your Sport Trade account. So now that we got that out of the way, let's just tackle the fact that we finally kind of came back down to earth after the hot streak that we had on this show over the last week and a half or so with the bets that we were putting out. Yesterday crashed and burned, and I said as much on the show. This angle I was taking with the Rams and the Vikings game, I was counting on someone to win by a pretty large margin. We went through yesterday's show. We went through all the games that happened, where the pre-game lines were, and then, where the actual win margins were, when the game's finished, and none of them were adding up. So for me, it was fair to assume, okay, in this one, they're only 2.5 point favorites, the Vikings. I leaned into that harder. I thought the Vikings were going to win by a much bigger margin. And instead, we got the exact opposite. The LA Rams destroyed the Minnesota Vikings yesterday. Final score 27-9. Rams were a 2.5 point underdog. They blow that out of the water. They were able to just roll with the punches of, life that they got. I'm not even talking about the things that happened on the field. Everything off the field that I thought was going to be too much for them to overcome. They proved you right, Keon, in that they used them as motivating factors to come to Arizona, bring their fans with them, and get the job done. And that's exactly what they did. What kind of, I guess, shocked you about that performance, or was there anyone in particular? Because, like, for me, and we're going to get into this in a second, this sort of fall of Sam Darnold. I don't even know if you can kind of call it a fall of Sam Darnold, but I just feel like the last 2 games of Vikings performances that we've got, the Sam Darnold that's playing doesn't seem like the Sam Darnold that led this team to a 14-3 season.
And apparently it's 2 teams that do it to him. It's the Rams and it's the Lions. I don't know what it is about those 2 defenses that he can't figure it out, or what they know to do to him specifically. But it is brutal when when he plays those teams. I mean, both results this year have been pretty bad. They played the Lions and then played the Rams earlier this year, lost both of those games, and then in a repeat of history, essentially, do it again. I think the thing that stood out to me, or that surprised me the most, was just what they were able to do defensively to confuse Sam. I really didn't see this defense the way that they had played all year, and I knew that they were getting better and that they were improving, and that the Rams in the second half of the season were a much more dominant defensive unit than the Rams at the beginning of the season. But I didn't see that kind of a defensive performance where they were giving him different looks. They were showing blitz and then not blitzing at all. They would show him blitz on one side and bring pressure from the other side. Like, he just really didn't know what the hell was going on. And, to borrow the phrase, he was seeing ghosts out there. I mean, he just couldn't quite put together what it was that the Rams were showing him. It was borderline evil.
So, and I was thinking about this too, because even going back to the game before against the Lions, which was like the pseudo NFC North championship game, the Vikings O-line, I mean, how much do they kind of deserve to have the finger pointed at them? Because Sam Darnold, it looks like, just got sacked like more times in the last 2 games than, I mean, I don't know the actual numbers on this. I'd have to go back and look, but like, it seemed like he just got sacked more times than he did like all season. And in this game last night in particular, he had like 6 sacks like by halftime.
Yeah. And the game ended with him having been sacked 9 times. So that's an absurd number for any defense to put up in a single game. They were 0 of 2 on screen passes. Like they just couldn't seem to get any part of their offense to function. And yeah, the offensive line is a factor of that. I don't remember the name of their right guard. I could look it up, but he was getting pushed back into Sam on multiple occasions. There were times Sam would try to climb the pocket and he couldn't do it because there was nowhere to climb to. So like, it's not just his performance that was bad. Yeah, the offensive line, quite frankly, didn't get going. The defense obviously didn't do their part either. But when you keep putting the defense back out on the field over and over and over again, eventually something's going to give.
So, with all that being said, and I had asked you this before we went on the air, just kind of taking a step back and looking at the Minnesota Vikings now. I mean, these 2 losses that they've suffered that have just ended this kind of storybook season that they were having. I mean, totally shocking result, because I think a lot of people really had them pegged to go a lot deeper into the playoffs this season. So where does this kind of leave the Vikings right now? And my whole thing that I've been thinking about is, do these 2 losses kind of undo all of this goodwill that the Vikings managed to build up throughout the season? They got all this credit, all this hype about Brian Flores and the defense and how overachieving they were. Sam Darnold got a ton of praise throughout the season, and some of the numbers did back it up. I mean, this guy was among the leaders, among all quarterbacks in passing yards, which is just not something that anyone, expected from him. He was supposed to be, kind of the Band-Aid quarterback leading over to JJ McCarthy. I mean, where do you see, how things stand right now with the Vikings, Keon?
Yeah, I think that they're basically where you said, right? Like the goodwill is kind of, I don't want to say it's running out, because like when you look at what this team did this year, like it was an incredible coaching job by Brian Flores. It was an incredible coaching job from Kevin O'Connell and what that offense has been able to do this year. And obviously you had players that were just playing at an insanely high level. And I don't think it necessarily, is one of those games where you can necessarily look and say, this team is suddenly bad or they're a bunch of frauds, because they beat good teams this year. They beat good teams. They beat them on the road. They beat them at home. This was a quality football team, but like they do have some glaring flaws and weaknesses. That secondary does give up way too many explosive plays downfield. The offense can sometimes be held in check completely. And if you can take Justin Jefferson out of the game, you kind of just take the rest of the unit out in a way that I don't think that that's true for any other team in the NFL, where if you take out a single receiver, the whole offense falls apart. But it's true for Minnesota in particular, because of how many different things they've got Justin Jefferson doing, either out of the backfield, downfield. He's their deep threat. He's kind of a running option too. He's their intermediary passing option. Like he just does so much for that team. I think that allows coaches where if I don't have to worry about the game after you because I just need to win this to advance in the playoffs. If I can key in on your weaknesses, I can beat you pretty bad. And we've seen that.
Well, and I think that there may potentially be a silver lining in this for the Vikings, because, and we talked about this throughout the regular season, they were, going to be entering into this territory where you've got Sam Darnold as your current starting quarterback. Then you've got JJ McCarthy, kind of rehabbing and getting himself back to a place where, he could come back to the team and potentially be their starting quarterback. And then that was going to be this, big decision that they were going to have to make in terms of, do we invest in Sam? Do we trade JJ? Do we invest in JJ and then move on from Sam? And I think you've kind of seen everything that you need to see at this point to, be a little bit more decisive in making that decision and probably, moving on from Darnold and, seeing where things lie in the future with JJ McCarthy. Do you think other teams out there are still going to be interested in Sam Darnold after what we've seen, with how he's performed in the 2 most meaningful games that he's played in, perhaps maybe in his career?
I mean, it doesn't look good. Like it means that if we play big games, can we trust you? And I don't know that you can make that argument with what we've seen so far. And obviously the sample size just isn't very big. Sam Darnold hasn't played a lot of meaningful football in his career. So if he were able to do this again, if he were able to have the kind of 14-win season, either with the Vikings or somebody else, I think that would still be left to be determined. But I think if you're the Vikings, you at least have a really good idea of like, this guy's not a slam dunk. Bringing back Sam Darnold doesn't just make us a good football team automatically. And if that's not the case, then why not roll with JJ?
Well, and it's not the first time that we've speculated about this on this show, but the Cardinals have come out and said that, they are interested in adding a veteran quarterback, to potentially put some pressure on Kyler Murray. This is a big year that he's going to be coming into next season with, trying to prove to the organization that he is the franchise quarterback that we drafted him to be. But now, the times that we talked about this in the past, it was as if maybe Sam Darnold was a little bit too good to be kind of slotted into that position. Now I kind of feel like his profile's maybe been lowered a little bit to the point where maybe that is the exact kind of role that he needs to find instead of, trying to go be the starting quarterback of the Raiders, or
Yeah,
where else could he go?
And also, I think it's not even that his profile's lowered. It just makes the Cardinals make more sense. Because if you show up here and Kyler doesn't play well, or Kyler has one of those games where he just explodes and he just looks like a disaster, and then you put in Darnold, and Darnold elevates this roster or makes this roster more steady and more competent, like this could be the big deal team for you right here. And it would give you a better roster to work with, because I think we've seen that with Darnold. Like, he's good enough that if you put talented players around him, like, he can be effective.
He would be like the best backup quarterback that we would have had in like a very long time, at least since we've had Kyler Murray on the team.
Well, he'd be the best backup quarterback in the league if you backed up anybody, because you lead a team to a 14-win season. Like, you're not a backup. That's a starter. Now, I don't know what level of starter, you can argue that, but you are a starter in this league. I think if you were to show up here, it would be with the sole purpose of saying, yeah, I think I can beat Kyler Murray. I think I can take his job. And I think that if I take his job, this is a good enough roster. I could be the quarterback for the next 5 years. And that makes all the sense in the world if you're Sam Darnold, as opposed to, I'm going to play for the Saints, who are in hell as far as the salary cap is concerned all the time. I'm going to play for the Raiders, who have effectively no offensive line, one of the worst run games in the league, kind of nobody at receiver outside of Brock Bowers. Like, there are places you can go, you can get the big money deal, and we might never hear from you ever again. And we can just laugh at that team and go, boy, can you believe those guys signed Sam Darnold? Or you can go to the Cardinals, where there's a good running back committee. The offensive line's not great, but it's improving. You got Marvin Harrison Jr., who I think needs to be unlocked. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that kid. And then there's other weapons at wide receiver as well. Trey McBride, the tight end, a defense that's like solid. Like, the Cardinals defense isn't great, but it's not the worst defense in the league. They're kind of middle of the pack. There are things here that if you're Sam Darnold, you can say, like, if I can get this job, I will be in a really good situation, where a lot of the teams that will be trying to throw money at him this offseason, they're not good situations. This might be the only time you get paid if that's what you want to do.
Well, I'm really interested to see how all of that plays out over the next, 3-4 months. It's going to be a really entertaining offseason for the NFL, and, player movement, and seeing how the Vikings decide to regroup after this. But let's kind of take a look now real quick at just the remainder of the playoff matchups, because now the final 8 teams have been finalized. The 4 games that we're going to be looking at for this weekend are between the Chiefs and the Texans this coming Saturday. The Chiefs are currently an 8.5-point favorite on FanDuel. You've got the Lions and the Commanders on Saturday as well. Lions are currently a 9.5-point favorite on the spread. Then you go over to the games on Sunday. You've got the Eagles taking on the Rams. Eagles are currently a 6.5-point favorite. And then you've got the Buffalo Bills taking on the Baltimore Ravens. And this one's interesting because Ravens are on the road and they are the favorite, 1.5-point favorites right now on FanDuel. And the one thing I just want to stress to anyone that's listening is that out of all the playoff games that have taken place so far within the NFL, there hasn't been a single game that has actually ended where the line was set, right at kickoff. So you have to take these spreads with a bit of a grain of salt, because generally what the trend has been is you're going to get a much different win margin than, what the line is suggesting. And when I look at Chiefs and Texans and I'm taking that into consideration, I'm probably leaning more towards a very big Chiefs win. And a lot of that really just has to do with the fact that, the Texans are used to playing inside, they've got a very nice, comfortable stadium. Arrowhead is an extremely difficult place to go and get a win, let alone in the postseason, let alone in January when it is a frozen tundra. And that Texans team is already pretty banged up. So, that's probably the way I would look to bet that one. Lions Commanders, 9.5-point favorites for the Lions. It's hard to draw that big of a line against the Commanders, in my opinion. They've just proved it time and time again. They've been huge underdogs in many games this season. And then lo and behold, those games come down to the final play, the final field goal, or, a Jaden Daniels touchdown pass at the buzzer, however you want to spell it up. I would imagine that line's going to get more narrow between now and game time. Eagles and Rams. Eagles are a 6.5-point favorite. And honestly, the Rams, they really just impressed me yesterday. I think there's an argument to be made that what the Rams just did against the Vikings, dealing with all of the things that they had to deal with on and off the field, could be a more difficult challenge that they just overcame compared to now you're getting back to business as usual. You're only looking at, away games here on out for the rest of the playoffs. So to go to Philly and just get back to business as usual, this week could honestly end up being easier for them. I think there's completely an argument for that. And then Bills Ravens, 1.5-point favorites. I actually think this might be the very first game where this is potentially how it could finish. Now, would it be Ravens winning by 1 or, possibly 2 or, Bills winning by 1 or 2? It's still a toss up, but I think this line is probably the most accurate one that we've got out of any of these games so far.
Yeah. Which didn't it kind of feel that way with Washington and Tampa Bay too? That one was another close one that played out exactly like that. And this is the closest one we have. And it does look like it could play out exactly that way. I do think it's pretty interesting that you've got the Bills being home dogs after obliterating the Broncos, and just what the Ravens did to the Steelers was still strong enough that you still feel really good about where the Ravens are at. Let's take a look at the text line, and then we'll have to move on because we've got a lot of NBA stuff to get to. The Suns are back in action tonight, and we'll talk about that and some of the rumors around the National Basketball Association. So Drives a Lot says, congrats, Baker's Cocky Hens, second exact hit. And then Baker's Cocky Hens actually shows up on the text line and just comments on the bets that he made, which leads me to believe that he didn't actually hear that he won the probability contest. Baker's Cocky Hens, you won it. He said parlayed Rams money line with Hawkinson and Akers, both to get 25 yards at plus 600. Almost used that $68 free bet, but chickened out. And he also said, also took Ant for 30 points. Thanks, Dylan. And then he also said, wait, I won. Yeah, man, you won. You actually guessed the win probability at 53% exactly. Nail on head. So there you go, sir. Congratulations. That's good for you. So, I don't think you need to send your information because I think we already.
Oh, yeah, no, everything's already in motion there. You will be getting some kind of a message from Sport Trade. And good call on Ant-Man last night because he went off for 41. So that was an easy 30-point.
Yeah, absolutely. That was pretty. So you had a good night betting too. I mean, wow, everything going Baker Cocky Head's way after, oh God, just a whole season of near misses. And then Navy Brad, will wrap up with you on the text line, says, greetings. I went to the game and had great seats. In my eyes, as a Vikings fan, I say they came out flat and with the tank on empty, which I just think is crazy when you consider how good this team was all year and what they had to play for. Why would you come out that flat? But I also think that the Rams had something to do with that. Really discouraged them early, and it just kind of snowballed. So that's going to do it for this segment. We're going to get to the NBA stuff right here in just a second. You're listening to Beat the Book right here on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
Sports betting apps are not created equal. Dylan Cohen from Beat the Book here to talk about the Sport Trade advantage. With higher payouts, Sport Trade is the ultimate sports betting experience. Sport Trade is the first sports betting app that gives you the option to see the odds expressed as probabilities, and it's changing in-game betting forever. If it's easier to understand 52% probability of winning versus minus 108 odds, then Sport Trade is for you. With this percent odds feature, cashing out now makes much more sense. As the win probability changes, so does the value of your bet. And if you're an experienced bettor and prefer American odds, you'll get pricing closer to minus 106 versus the normal minus 110, coupled with instant in-play betting. No more spinny wheels. So download Sport Trade today to see the difference and beat the book. Use promo code 1580 to earn 10% cash back on every bet you place in your first week. Terms apply.
Sport Trade is regulated by the Arizona Department of Gaming. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted a colonial with high ceilings, hardwood floors, and a peaceful neighborhood. And you found it. Now, every Saturday at 6 a.m., you get to wake to the sound of your neighbor's leaf blower. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Hi, guys. Jeffrey O'Brien here. Have you ever gone to harmonsolar.com? Well, you really need to, because everything you ever wanted to know about how solar power can save you big on your monthly electric bill is right there. It's online. Through your phone or through your computer, you can learn about tax credits, the equipment they use, look at how they do things for businesses as well as homeowners, see testimonials from happy customers, and I hear they got a pretty good podcast too. Check it out. Go to harmonsolar.com. That's harmonsolar.com.
AZ Preps 365, your source for all the news, info, highlights, and more. Athlete news and interviews. Talk with coaches. Keep you up to date with the changes, moves, upcoming events, and more. AZ Preps 365, Arizona's ultimate prep sports show. If you miss a minute, you miss a lot. AZ Preps 365, Saturday mornings 8 till 10 on 1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic, and always on at 1580thefanatic.com.
Let's say you've got questions. You're looking into solar, but you don't know where to start. Well, Harmon Solar has the answers. Hi, I'm Jeffrey O'Brien, and listen, there's a couple of ways you can go here. One, visit harmonsolar.com, browse around, because right across the page, they got links to all sorts of great information, like frequently asked questions, equipment, tax credits, even testimonials. Or just give them a call, 800-281-3189. Ask them directly. They'd love to hear from you. That's 800-281-3189. Or just go to harmonsolar.com.
Download our free sports app and stay up with all the latest sports news, scores, highlights, and more.
Or
Stream us live anywhere
at 1580thefanatic.com.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic, Arizona's home for sports.
And we are on to the NBA. The Suns are back in action tonight, DC, and they're taking on the Hawks. And both of these teams, 500. What are we looking at tonight?
Well, and, the Suns just played the Hawks last week. That game was in Phoenix, and the Suns were able to win. Final score there was 123-115. So you take a look at this game today, and let's talk injuries real quick. Because the Atlanta Hawks are still without Jalen Johnson, and that is a big deal for the Suns. That really does go a long way in the Suns' potential to win this game. And then you look a little bit more into the injury report, and currently for the Atlanta Hawks, Bogdan Bogdanovic and Trae Young are both questionable to play in this game. Trae Young is dealing with an illness, and Bogdanovic has right knee inflammation. Now, the other piece to this, too, is that Atlanta does play a back-to-back tomorrow. They are on the road taking on the Chicago Bulls. So typically within the NBA, when you've got guys that are dealing with ailments and, this is the first day of a back-to-back, there tends to be a decision made of, we're probably not going to grind you into the ground and make you play both games since you're sick if you're Trae Young, or you've got the knee inflammation if you're Bogdanovic. So there is reason to suspect that maybe one of those guys does not play tonight and they might alternate them. Or perhaps if this sickness really isn't that bad for Trae Young and it's minor, then he may just, play, business as usual there. But keep those things in mind when you're looking to bet on this game, because if it does happen to turn out that Trae Young and Bogdanovic are both out, this line is going to get a lot bigger. Currently, the Suns are 3-point favorites. If Atlanta is missing Jalen Johnson, Trae Young, and Bogdan Bogdanovic, that's basically like their three leading scorers right there. It's really going to handicap their offense. And, for as kind of sketchy as the Suns have been lately, I would actually confidently say they're going to win the game. With how things kind of stand right now, with the uncertainty about who's going to play for Atlanta, On the Sun side, there are no big impact injuries. Royce O'Neal is back. The team is playing, well. I mean, if you look at the last 5 games, they've won 4 out of their last 5. They're on a 3-game winning streak. None of these games are against winning teams, so keep that in mind. Also, most recent game against the Hornets, took a furious fourth quarter rally to come back and win that one. It wasn't that impressive of a win. We're still looking for a very impressive Suns win here. And for this game, an impressive win would be, let's get close to it, like a 20-point victory on the road. That would really go a long way in trying to restore the faith, in the Phoenix Suns that this recent downturn, did a lot of damage to. So, with that being said, where the line is currently set, like I didn't put out any recommended bets for who's going to win this game or which way to go, because I just didn't like the amount of information that's available right now. And that is a unfortunate dynamic that you will face within the NBA and NBA betting. A lot of these teams will not put out really crucial information until, minutes before game time. And it sucks, but my biggest thing, if you're going to look to bet the Suns game today, is just use caution. And I would probably skew more towards player props than betting the outcome of the game, at least for right now, when, we don't exactly know who's going to be on the court for the Atlanta Hawks. So, with that in mind, there's still other things going on with the Suns, outside of this game against the Hawks. And for as bad as this little downswing has felt, you have to keep in mind the Suns are only 2 games back of first place in the Pacific Division. You've got the LA Lakers, who are also going through their own downward spiral. If you happen to see them last night against the Spurs at home, they looked very unimpressive. They've got bad issues. Golden State Warriors are in a little bit of a funk right now. The Clippers are holding steady, still, trying to work Kawhi Leonard back into the court. And then you've got the Sacramento Kings, surprisingly on a 7-game winning streak in the wake of firing Mike Brown, which totally unexpected. But this Pacific Division is still something that the Suns can come out on top with. I mean, there's plenty of time to really kind of turn things around on the season. So the Suns absolutely need to win tonight to, continue to take steps forward and to build momentum. You look further down the schedule, we've got a few more games against these, teams with 500 records or worse. So the opportunity is there. Then we've got a big matchup coming up in Cleveland. And that could be, an opportunity for a statement for the Suns to really just show the world like, hey, we have kind of gone through this rough patch, we're getting back to it. And that would really go a long way if they're able to get that win. Now, one of the things I did just want to bring up too is that the NBA trade deadline is approaching us. It's coming up on February 6th. Time is running out to make trades, and the Suns do have some moves that they're looking to make. So, the first one that we've talked about quite a bit, Yusuf Nurkic, he is no longer in the rotation. He's pretty much buried on the bench. And right now, I mean, the Suns have been in conversations with the Hornets, potentially for Nick Richards. The problem that they're encountering is that all these other teams know the Suns are not really in a position of leverage. So they're going after the Suns' draft capital, and the kind of potential offers that we're getting, or, the dialogue that's going on in trades, they're just not realistic offers that are going to benefit Phoenix. We shouldn't be looking to give up any pick swaps or draft picks really of any kind to get rid of Yusuf Nurkic. If that's what it's going to take, he's probably just better off sitting on the end of the bench, and we'll just roll with Plumlee and Oso Ighodaro. But then we've got the Jimmy Butler deal, and the Jimmy Butler carousel. It keeps spinning and spinning, and no one really knows when it's going to stop or who's going to get on or get off. But the latest news there is that Jimmy Butler had a face-to-face meeting with Pat Riley, and he reiterated his desire to be traded. He told Pat Riley he would not be willing to sign an extension with the Heat, and he would potentially opt into his $52 million player option as a maneuver to facilitate a trade. So the big thing here is that Butler's suspension right now from the Heat ends this coming Thursday. Miami is set to take on the Denver Nuggets at home on Friday, which is a NBA Finals rematch. That's going to be a game that they're going to bring a lot of fans out to. The Nuggets are fully healthy. The team has said that Jimmy is going to come back to the team and play. So I'm really curious to see if he ultimately plays in that game. Jimmy's kind of doing his best to, poke buttons off the court. There was a video that came out recently. He was working in his coffee shop in Miami. He made a comment to one of his employees about, how a good boss is supposed to be and building you up and not breaking you down. And people are taking that as, a shot towards Pat Riley.
As rightfully they should. Jimmy Butler is a troll, and he speaks the language of troll fluently.
Well, and then to take that another step further, there was a quote that came out from Tyler Hero recently where, he said the team is just looking to kind of focus on the guys that they have around them now and who are all playing together. And then he went out of his way to make this little comment where he said, "We have enough." And that was kind of like the first sign that I saw of, oh, maybe this is kind of getting under the player's skin a little bit.
Yeah, because I still think that if you're the guys out there battling, and here's a guy in Jimmy Butler who is quite frankly making more money than all of you, and you're still going out there in his absence, being very competitive in those games, winning a lot of them, it does start to get to the point where it's like, well, what's the point of bringing this guy back? If he doesn't want to be out here with us, then it's just us. And the Heat already kind of have that built into their culture, just baked into them, the us versus everybody mentality anyway. If they start to see Jimmy as the everybody, that tends to change things.
Well, and now there's even some, potential trade rumors coming out of a 3-team deal that would actually bring the Bucks into this. And there could potentially be some arrangement there where the Suns are sending Bradley Beal to the Bucks. The Bucks are then turning around and sending Chris Middleton and Bobby Portis to the Heat. And then the Heat turn around and send Jimmy Butler to us. And that actually, I see some credibility in that. And, it's going to boil down to, okay, Miami, we know you don't want Bradley Beal, his no trade clause, his really expensive contract, fine. But what if you were able to turn that into a guy like Bobby Portis, who would be an excellent contributor for your team right now?
And a big Heat culture guy, if ever there was one.
And honestly, Chris Middleton as well. I mean, these guys are both champions. I mean, you're bringing in guys that have played at the highest level and succeeded at the highest level. I mean, Pat Riley loves adding additions like that. They've even talked about adding Pat Connaughton to that deal, another guy from the championship team. So it does seem like there are still viable options to potentially get this done. But I do doubt the Suns' ability to pull off trades for both Nurkic and for Bradley Beal, because one of those two contracts is probably going to require, those draft assets to be paired with them to make that a lot more enticing for another team to take on. So we're going to continue to watch this and monitor this. This is absolutely the most interesting, juicy trade rumor that's, out there right now. But as we get closer to the deadline, more of these things come out. There's definitely other guys on other teams that are in scenarios where they're probably on the move. And that's also where those teams could potentially get involved and be an asset for the Suns in facilitating a trade.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think the only thing with the Middleton to Miami thing would be, do you think that Middleton can get back to where he was pre-injury? And also, do you think that the worst of his injuries are behind him? Because if you're Miami and you're not convinced that that's true, I don't know how much that trade works out for you. But if you roll the dice on it and you think Middleton can get back to where he was, like, that guy was really good back then. Like, I think we've just kind of forgotten because it's just been so long since we've really seen Middleton string together enough games to play at the level that he used to. But he's another guy that just, he's a very big if. And this whole series of trades is full of if guys. Beal's kind of an if guy. Middleton's kind of an if guy. And then Jimmy isn't an if guy depending on where he goes.
Now, the one thing that does make Middleton, I think, a lot more attractive from the Heat's perspective, much cheaper contract than Bradley Beal. Yep. Makes about $31 million a year. He does have a player option for next season, but after that, unrestricted free agent, and obviously no trade clause, not being a part of his contract. So I think it does make that a bit easier to stomach. But those are, still excellent points. I mean, Chris Middleton hasn't really played to the level that he played when the Bucks defeated the Suns in the NBA Finals, a few years back. So that's just going to be something that, Pat Riley and the Heat will have to potentially take a gamble on. I don't believe them when they say that, it's actually better if we just let Jimmy walk and we just get nothing, because salary cap flexibility is so much better than everything else. Like,
you're spinning it a little bit. Sounds a little bit like cope. I mean, you're not you're not going to sit there and say that every general manager in basketball is just wrong about being desperate about trading guys instead of letting them walk for nothing. And you're the only team that's ever bothered to think about cap flexibility. Like that's you're just not going to convince me that that's true. You are lying, but you have to lie. Like, this is the lie that they need to tell to make this work.
Now, I do just want to shout out one betting opportunity before we go to break here. And then when we come back, we're going to get into the long shot parlay, and I'll go through how that one looks for today. But if you go to the Beat the Book website where we post all of the bets that we recommend on this show, you'll see that the number one bet for today is to take the Oklahoma City Thunder on the spread in their game against the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, when I put out the post this morning, the spread was at 11.5. I just looked at it right now, and the spread is getting bigger. It's currently up to 13 right now. The Thunder are a 13-point favorite against the Sixers. The reason why you should bet this, even now at 13, is because the Sixers are going to be without Joel Embiid and Andre Drummond tonight. So we know what kind of a team the Sixers become when Joel Embiid is not on the court. They are a much lesser version of themselves. And then you take a look at the Thunder and how well they've been performing lately. And the Thunder have won their last two games by margins of 25 points, which they did that against the New York Knicks. And then they won by 41 points, and that came against the Washington Wizards. So the Philadelphia 76ers, without Joel Embiid, I'd say as a team, they're probably somewhere in between the Knicks and the Wizards, maybe leaning a little bit more towards the Wizards than the Knicks. But just with the way that the Thunder are playing right now, I mean, they are the best defensive team in the NBA. When they get Chet Holmgren back, they are going to be just absolutely scary. But even right now, with the way they're playing, a 13-point spread feels extremely low against this Sixers team. I would look for the Thunder to win this game by a margin much closer to 20. Could very well be over 20. This is a big reason why the Thunder are in the long shot parlay. But get on this spread while you still can, because even at 13, the Thunder should be able to clear that pretty easily.
So there you have it for there. We'll get to the long shot parlay in just a moment. On the text line, we are well, I think I'm getting my feelings hurt by Baker's cocky hens. He said, "Who did OKC beat by 41?" It was Washington. Okay, it was the Wizards. It's my team. Why are you doing this right now? We were so happy for you just a few moments ago. Really, the insult is coming from the Wizards themselves. They are an insult to the game of basketball, and I'm sorry. I apologize on behalf of my team for the fact that they continue to exist. So we'll get to the long shot parlay and get to some other things as well, right here on Beat the Book on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
Progressive knows we all crave validation.
Girl, you are not 37.
I would have guessed 27.
You guys are too sweet.
Sure. Dewy skin. Terrific.
Is something wrong, Ned?
Why would you ask? Just because today marks my 10th anniversary without a car accident or even a speeding ticket? But somehow, tonight's all about your skincare.
Wow. With Snapshot from Progressive, you can get a personalized rate based on how you drive. And that's all the validation you need. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in California from all agents. Surcharge possible for unsafe driving.
Someone had a birthday.
Yep, 50. Can't believe it.
50 years of wisdom.
Great segue. We have health news, a CDC update.
Pneumococcal vaccination is now recommended for adults 50 or older. Says here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just 1 dose. And millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. And happy 50th.
My pain is considerable, but that prescription is dangerous.
The side effects of my medicine are worse than my condition.
I'm in recovery. I can't take those pills.
When faced with a health crisis, you shouldn't have to choose between risks.
At the Naturopathic Physicians Group in Scottsdale, our medical doctors are experts in full spectrum care using a natural approach. Patients come in for a variety of issues, including joint pain, chronic conditions, and issues specific to men's and women's health. Our naturopathic doctors can restore pain-free joint function and restore balance in immune, digestive, and hormone systems, which often improves immediate physical symptoms without having you take a bunch of pills. If traditional medicines aren't working, don't you think it's time to start feeling like yourself again? Call Naturopathic Physicians Group at 480-451-6161. That's 480-451-6161. Or go to naturopathicgroup.com.
There's something you can do today that will impact all your tomorrows. Open an AZ 529 Education Savings Plan. Contribute just $50 a month, and you'll have nearly $20,000 by your child's high school graduation, or as a great start towards your own education savings. Your money grows tax-free and can be used for college, vocational school, or workforce training. Learn more at az529.gov. Do it today for all your tomorrows.
This message is sponsored by the Office of the Arizona State Treasurer.
1580 The Fanatic.
And at 1580thefanatic.com.
Your home for sports.
Well, DC, this is it. The part of the show where we get to take a swing at some big money. So the long shot parlay falls in your court. Where are we starting?
So here is today's get rich quick scheme, the long shot parlay. So this one is 4 legs, and when I originally put it together earlier today, it was paying a little bit over 112 to 1. So I would imagine the payout is probably still in that neighborhood, but if it's less than that, don't be surprised, because this is how pricing and odds work. You know, the odds are out there. People are betting on them all day long. If people happen to be betting on the same things that we're going to be betting on, it's going to move those lines in a direction that is different from where it was when I put this together. So just keep that in mind. The first leg of the long shot parlay is for Devin Booker to score 30 points tonight in the Suns game against the Atlanta Hawks. And the thing to keep in mind here is that Devin Booker has had 3 30-point games out of his last 4, 3 games with 30 or more points in them. That one game in that last 4 where he didn't get the 30 points was ironically against the Atlanta Hawks at home. But if you recall, that was also a game where the Suns got very big contributions out of Bradley Beal as well as Grayson Allen. So, you know, you see how the Suns have performed since that game. And if Bradley Beal and Grayson Allen are not each going for 20 points, then it really increases the likelihood that the offensive production is flowing mostly through Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, as it usually does, which is why in the most recent matchups, Devin Booker has been scoring 30 or more. So, you know, taking this on the road to Atlanta, the Hawks have the 3rd worst defense in the NBA. Keep that in mind. I think that's a big reason why you saw 4 different Suns players score 20 or more points against them in the last game. The scoring distribution very well could look like that again, but if it doesn't look like that and it's more condensed, you know, between less people, then Devin Booker is more than likely going to be the beneficiary of that. So that is why you can count on Devin Booker to score 30 against the Atlanta Hawks. The next leg on there is for Zach LaVine to score 30 or more points against the New Orleans Pelicans. Zach LaVine plays for the Chicago Bulls, and something you need to know about the Bulls and the Pelicans in general is that they are among the worst defensive teams in the league, and they both tend to play at a higher pace. So when you have bad defenses and fast-paced basketball, you get a lot more offensive possessions than normal, and you tend to score on those offensive possessions because the defense is bad. Now you take a look at Zach LaVine individually, and Zach LaVine he's like flying under the radar right now. I'm surprised more people are not talking about him because he's a guy that the Bulls are looking to trade right now. He's playing the absolute best basketball potentially of his entire career. He's on a stretch right now where in every game so far in 2025, he has scored 30 or more points. So he is yet to go under 30 in the month of January. And, being able to take on the Pelicans at home with that bad defense, it's another great chance to be able to back Zach LaVine's points. So I would definitely count on him to get 30 against the Pelicans. The next leg, this one is going to be the most difficult one. I'll be completely upfront about that. It's for Evan Mobley on the Cleveland Cavaliers to get 12 or more rebounds against the Indiana Pacers tonight. Now, the biggest reason why this could potentially hit is because in the Cavs' last game, which happened to be against the Pacers, they did lose it. Evan Mobley had 12 rebounds. So we're not looking for him to do anything that he hasn't done before. He's literally playing the same exact team that he just played, that he just had 12 rebounds against. That number is a bit higher than what he tends to average on the season. So we are counting on him to have a bit of an above average performance. But if you look at his last 5 games, he's had double doubles in 4 of them. That's also a reason why I have Evan Mobley under the other bets to consider on the Beat the Book website to get a double double tonight. When I posted that, it was paying even money, which seemed crazy because the guy has done it in 4 out of his last 5 games, including against the team that he's taking on tonight. So that is why you should count on Evan Mobley to get the 12 or more rebounds. And then the final leg of this is for the Oklahoma City Thunder to win on an alternate spread. So I just kind of went through why you should count on the Thunder to cover a 13-point spread, but you could get a lot of value in this by taking an alternate spread. And personally, by the way, I am playing a ladder on the Thunder spread tonight. I've got it at, and earlier in the day, I got them at 12 at like even money. I took it up to 18. I think that paid like 2-1. And then I've also got them to cover a 22.5-point spread. So the Thunder need to defeat I'm blanking. Who are they playing?
The Thunder are playing. Where I was looking at it. The Sixers.
The Sixers. That's right. So they need to beat the Sixers by 23 or more points to cover that spread. And, we said it before the break, the Thunder have won their last 2 games by 25 points and 41 points. So again, not asking them to do anything that they haven't already done before. The Sixers have some key injuries tonight. They have honestly just been a shell of themselves all season. So this is absolutely a spread that the best defense in the NBA, the Oklahoma City Thunder, can look to cover. So that is the long shot parlay, and I've got it posted on the site. I mean, if you put $5 on this thing and it's paying a little bit over 112 to 1, then you're going to be in line to make $564.25. So that is the long shot parlay of the day from Beat the Book. Make sure you check out the Beat the Book website, and there are additional other bets to consider on there. Going back to the Suns game, if you wanted to look at playing assists for Devin Booker instead of his points, you can look to take him for 8 or more assists. That's a mark that he's been clearing very consistently lately. You can also look to take Clint Capella. He is the starting center for the Atlanta Hawks. You can look to get him on rebounds. That is currently a weak spot for the Suns team. We're working with Mason Plumlee and Oso Ighodaro. We've benched our, supposed to be starting center in Yusuf Nurkic. So other teams, front court players, they tend to rebound very well against us. If you take a look at how Capella did in that last game against the Suns last week, he had 10 rebounds. That should be a mark that he clears pretty easily there. And then the Denver Nuggets and the Dallas Mavericks game later on tonight, that one's on TNT. The Nuggets are back to full strength. They've got Aaron Gordon. The Mavericks may potentially have Kyrie Irving back. So that's a reason why I've stayed off of trying to bet on who's going to win that game. But if you want to look at player props, Nikola Jokic is definitely in for a big night. Anytime the game is on primetime TV, and this might be a little trivial, to me, that motivates players. Players know that they're getting that extra exposure, and potentially the star players, those are the guys that tend to step up in, the biggest stages. So you've got Jokic, primetime game on TNT. The man has been getting a lot of triple doubles lately. If you wanted to bet him for a triple double in this game, completely appropriate. But where I saw a pretty good opportunity for him was on his assists. You can take him to get 9 or more assists. This is something he's done in his last 5 games. And when I put that up on the Beat the Book site, it was paying pretty close to even money. So good value on that one too.
And that'll do it for us. We'll take one quick look back at the text line. Baker's Cocky Hen says,
Look, all out of love, man. Grew up a Cubs and Browns fan, so I feel your pain. No, being a Wizards fan is right there in line with that experience. This has to be the team with the most amount of quit in them in the entire league. I was telling Dylan before the show, like if the Wizards experience a strong 9-0 run in a game, they're done. The game's over. Like they're just thinking about the club later that night or whatever it is that they've got going on, movies, dinner, whatever it is that they've got planned. And they're out of the game entirely. Anyway, thanks for listening. I hope you have some good luck betting tonight. And as always, check us out tomorrow. Beat the Book. We'll be right back. The Daily Blender is coming up next right here on 1580 The Fanatic.
Watch NFL Network now.